United States.
Investors' concerns that the global economy could fall into recession as the Fed and other central banks raise interest rates in an effort to stop inflation.
The U.S. Federal Reserve has announced another interest hike.
The world economy is speeding towards a cliff edge. Stocks are down, inflation is up, and investors are moody. Everyone is wondering the same thing. Are we heading into a recession?
Russia-Ukraine war has put both Russia and Ukraine in recession. China is facing major crisis because of the housing market collapse and the COVID. And here in US, we have already seen the stock market plummet. The inflation is at 40 years record high level. And the Federal Reserve Bank has hiked the interest rates at unprecedented pace that has never seen before in the history of the United States.
Today, the FOMC raised its policy interest rate by 0.75 of a percentage point.
And that has sent out the shockwave across the world. Why? Because it is unarguably true that the recession in the biggest economy in the world will ripple down on all the economies in the world. And that will have a direct impact on the job market. And it is unfortunate to say, but the students will not be spared. They will feel the ripples of recession, especially the students who are planning to come in United States in the 2023 or are already here in United States, either very early stage of their career or they are in the universities and planning to graduate very soon. So let's try to understand how certain it is that America is heading towards a deep recession. How will this affect the international students? What can we learn from the past recession experiences, say from 2008? And most importantly, what you as an international student or a visa holder can do to survive this recession. What choices, what options do you have as an immigrant, as a student in the United States? Is it wise to come to United States for the study in the coming years? To understand the recession in simple terms, you have to look at the GDP per quarter graph of any country. 2 consecutive negative GDP quarters means the country is in recession. And that is one of the simplest definition of recession. If you go by that simple definition, you will find that US is already in the recession. And if you remember, the same was the case during the COVID. However, when government looks at the recession, they take a deeper look at the labor market, unemployment rate, household income, and industrial production, and etc. All these parameters. Since all of these parameters are not yet strongly negative right now, important right now. That's why even after violating the first definition of 2 consecutive negative GDP quarters, the US government is not willing to declare it as full-fledged recession. They have only termed it as mild recession. But that's just the government. Maybe they don't want to create the panic.
Just a joke.
But the tech sector in the US has already given its verdict on recession, with the companies like Facebook, Microsoft, and Google freezing their hiring and preparing for the employee layoff. In fact, the Microsoft had just announced the layoff. The other companies like Netflix, Robinhood, Spotify, Shopify, Zendesk, Uber, Lyft, PayPal, Gap, and many more have already hundreds of employees laid off. The brutal face of recession has already surfaced. It will be just a matter of time before it gets uglier and before government accept this officially. A more elaborate picture on all the layoffs can be seen on layoff.fyi that tracks all the layoffs by private companies across the world. You can filter the data by country, by sector, by company. According to it, the Netflix has already laid off employees 4 times in the last 6 months in just one location, California. And the complete picture is even more terrifying. The recession alarms have been blown by major US banks, renowned economists, financial institutions, even the IMF, International Monetary Fund, and more recently, the World Bank. On September 25, 2022, the World Bank released a report predicting the global recession in 2023. The report clearly says that the US economy is sharply slowing down and blamed this slowdown to a rapid increase in the interest rate that Federal Reserve Bank has been doing to fight the inflation. I'm gonna link the report down in the description for your reference. Now the bigger question is, are we really going to wait for the government to declare the deep recession first and take the action later, or interpret all the information around us and prepare ourselves to safely navigate through this financial crisis in advance? I will vouch for the later. We as an international student or work visa holder have so much on the stake. It's just not merely our jobs, but our whole career is at stake. And with it, the career of our dependents, our families. 90 days, guys, 90 days. That's how much time you have. That's how much time you can stay unemployed on F1 visa, OPT, O1 visa, or H1B visa. Only 90 days. And if you stay unemployed more than 90 days on all these visa types, that will be a direct violation of your immigration status. That could lead to a legal action against you, which could be a deportation, a permanent ban on entering the United States, or a punishment that could lead to even imprisonment. Are 90 days enough to find a job? Considering the fact when companies are laying off the employees and they are firing rather than hiring, I bet nobody will say yes. And even if there would be job openings during recession, there would be many candidates who would have also lost their jobs just like you did, and they will have more experience than you, higher education than you, green card or citizenships, and will be willing to work at lower wages. Will you, just a fresh graduate, be able to find job and compete with all those experienced people? It will be tough. So what should we do? How can we survive? The answer lies in the history. If you go back 14 years in time and study what did students do in 2008 recession, how did they survive, who survived? Based on their experiences, you can make informed decisions and plan yourself for the coming recession. I bet majority of you guys who are watching my videos may not have any experience or memory from the last 2008 recession. I assume many of you would still be in your primary or middle school days. 2008 was brutal. Many immigrants lost their jobs and students could not find the jobs. So as a result, they had to go back to their home countries and they could never return back to them. Whereas on the other hand, many smart people prepared themselves in advance and navigated through this recession successfully. How? I'm going to share some of the experiences from the last recession and give you few suggestions or options that you can choose from. As a student, there are broadly 3 scenarios that you could be in during the recession where you need a careful plan. Let's discuss all these 3 one by one. Scenario 1, you are still in your home country and planning to start your education in US by 2023 or beyond. Scenario 2, you are already studying in US on F1 visa and you are about to finish your study in 2023. And scenario 3, you have already graduated and joined a job but still are on OPT or H1B visa or O1 visa, meaning that you are in a very early stage of your career. Now, if the deep recession hits the market in 2023, the students who fall under the scenario 1, the ones who are planning to start their education by 2023 and beyond, do not have to worry too much about the economy, about the job market, about the unemployment, about anything else. Because you guys will be starting your career amidst the recession and you will probably take 2, 3, 4, 5 years to graduate from your program. And by the time you will graduate, the recession will be long gone. The economy will be back on track. I can say that with confidence because of 3 major reasons. 1, if you look back in the last 100 years of history, the average recession length in US is about 10 to 11 months. And none of the recession prevailed longer than 18 months. So it's very likely that this recession will also be over by the time you will graduate in 3, 4, 5 years. 2, back in 2008 recession, when the government saw it is getting harder and harder to resurrect the crumbling US economy, then in February 17, they passed an act, American Recovery and Reinvestment Act.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. We will rebuild. We will recover, and the United States of America will emerge stronger than before. And pleased to say that the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act is now law. Over the next 2 years, this plan will save or create 3.5 million jobs.
$100 billion were allocated to the education sector only, and it was a great boost to bring the economy back on track. So in 2023, if US goes into deep recession, a similar bailout package can be expected. And number 3, the statements from all the top economists give me confidence. For example, consider the statement from the Richard Wright, who said, if a financial shock in US is triggered, there is no limit to the downside. The US ultimately had the policy space to shore up both its economy and its financial system if it finds the political appetite for more bailouts. But most countries in the world, especially in the South, have no safety net. Let me simplify it for you. He is basically saying even if US goes into a deep recession in 2023, US has very much capacity to get out of the recession very quickly with the bailout packages. To sum up, if you guys are planning to come to United States 2023 and beyond, you guys don't have to worry about anything. In fact, I would say by the time you guys will be graduating in 2, 3, 4 years, the economy will be back on track. It will be booming. Your market will be very strong. and you will find job easily. In fact, this is the best time actually, because not only the economy or the job market will be strong, but there will also be not any recession fear in next 5-10 years. So you guys are very good. There is no need to defer your admit or postpone your plans to come to United States. So you should definitely start your program in 2023. The future is bright and the American dream is very much alive. बोल बोल के गला सूख गया, थोड़ा पानी पी लेता हूँ. लंबा हो गया, यहीं पे कट कर दूं. Now I want to talk about scenario 2 and scenario 3, the students who are already in the United States. But I just realized that video is getting very long, so I have to stop here. I will discuss the scenario 2 and scenario 3 in my next second part of this video. Take care. Bye.